What's up, y'all? Coach Clark, CPC, Team RunRun. Heart rate for dummies, okay? Should you use it? Why would you use it? What does it mean? How does it work? All the stuff. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a big fan of heart rate. I am. I find that it's one of the easiest ways to individualize training, especially when you're coaching athletes remotely. Now, does that mean that everybody should be using their heart rate for every run? Absolutely not, okay? For example, if you are a newer runner and or you've had a huge break, you should ignore your heart rate for those first couple months of training, okay? You should run more off rate of perceived exertion, okay? You should go out, if it feels easy and you can have a conversation pace, you're probably good. You also might have to suffer for a few weeks where your RPE is a little high for your body to get back into shape. But once we're in good shape, once we've been running a little bit, things are feeling good, this is the easiest way to individualize your training and make sure that the days are hitting the correct systems. Now, the first thing you gotta know is how do you take it? I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not big on the wrist-based heart rates. They're not great, though they're getting much better. And listen, I'm wearing a Whoop, I'm wearing a Garmin, okay? These are pretty good for sleep, walking around, chilling heart rates. But when I start running fast or cycling, I ride the bike a lot now, doing hard workouts, especially when it's hot or it's cold, these will jump around and they'll be a little different than my chest strap, which is the most accurate way to do it. Now, I will say some of the newest technology, so some of the newest Garmin's and Coros, etc. The wrist stuff is getting pretty dang good, and it is very close to the chest straps and the armbands, okay? But what I encourage my athletes to do is get a chest strap or an armband as opposed to taking it off their wrist. I got to speak at a huge high school camp a couple summers ago at Shippensburg University. They're one of the best Division II programs in the country. I got to go out and run with some of the guys and meet some of the athletes, which was great. I still hold a conference record in that conference. It was a lot of fun. We went up to the mountain to get a run in. Over half the guys had a chest strap heart rate monitor on. This is a thing, okay? The other way is to learn how to take it manually. You literally just take your heart rate from your neck here, you just find it, use your watch, and you start counting, okay? You start counting. Now, what you're feeling is your heart going like this, boom, 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 boom. So if you really want to be accurate, the first bump that you feel, like if my fingers are here, the first bump that I feel is actually going to be 0. So if I'm counting it now, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's how I would count it. But that's an easy way to know for sure what your heart rate is. And all you do is use your watch for 10 seconds, count your heart rate. Heart rate is in beats per minute. Times it by 6. And that'll give you your heart rate. So when I coached big high school teams back in the day, when I was coaching big high school teams, I taught all the kids how to take it manually. So if they didn't have a chest strap or an armband strap or whatever, we would do a threshold repeat, and we would immediately, as soon as they finished, I'd have them find their heart rate, and we would know. So keep it simple, okay? Keep it simple. On your easy days, let's just call them E, on E days, unless you're training for an ultra or a marathon where you're going to be out there for a really long time, generally speaking, your easy days, you want to be between 70 and 80% of your max heart rate. Yes, I know there's other ways to break the zones down. We could make this 60 if we wanted to. We can make it 65, whatever. For most people, that's going to be somewhere between 140 and 160 beats per minute, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that if you feel like crap or you're very fit, that you might be below that. You might be 120 beats or 115 beats per minute. But generally speaking, if you're training for most distances and we're trying to get better at burning carbohydrates as energy sources, okay, improving our mitochondrial health, all that stuff, we want to be, and this is where all the zone 2 stuff comes from, but the truth is you should be doing some zone 3 stuff too, and you don't need to live as, that's a whole other thing. I'll make a video on it. But your easy days, here's where we want to live, okay? Here's where we want to live. So when I'm helping athletes figure out if they're going too hard or too easy, this is what we're shooting for, okay? Now, not every athlete uses their heart rates for those days. If you're the kind of person who gets way too wound up and stressed out about numbers, go off RPE, conversation pace. Can you hold a conversation? Is your RPE like a 6, a 5 or a 6 out of 10 on those days, okay? But some people, I needed guidelines. I would go out and rip my easy days. I would run too hard on my easy days if I didn't have a heart rate hold me back sometimes. Sometimes when I was trying to really make a breakthrough and I was really making a jump, like when I went from like a 15:30 athlete to a 14:30 athlete, And I was running in the morning a lot. I needed a kick in the butt. I had to push harder to get my heart rate up into that zone, but that's just me. Now, the one energy system everybody should be using heart rate for. I'm sorry if you disagree with me. I don't know what else to tell you unless you're doing lactate testing or the data charts are just dead on for you, which most of the time they're not, but it just depends on the data chart, is threshold. Anaerobic threshold work, okay? Anaerobic threshold is going to be 85 to 90% of your max heart rate. So for most people, that's going to be 170 to 180, okay? That is the sweet spot where you are right on the edge of making more lactic acid than your body can buffer out at the same or better rate. The only way you can improve your threshold is by running right on the edge of too fast, but still being able to buffer that lactic acid out. Now, sometimes you'll see the word tempo. Okay, tempo would be in the middle here. So we talk about like marathon pace and stuff like that. And even like half marathon pace, people cannot run their half marathon at threshold unless they're like elite, right? And they're only running about an hour. So tempo would fall in the middle, but your threshold days, I encourage everybody to use heart rate for their threshold days. If we're doing anaerobic threshold work, lactate threshold work, whatever you want to call it, heart rate. Because if you're going over your lactate threshold, you're just getting better at tolerating lactic acid. You are not actually improving the speed at which you can run it, okay? And then basically everything from there and faster, it should be 90% plus. So for example, if we're doing VO2 max work, okay? This is one way where if you want to know, am I being a wuss? Well, when you're doing VO2 max work, your heart rate should be well above 90%. Some people might even hit 100% of their max heart rate at the end of VO2 max work. It just depends. It depends on who you are, what your health conditions are, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying go out and try to max out your heart rate and pass out and you be a mess. Like, that's not what I'm saying, okay? But what I'm saying is, if you want to use heart rate for VO2 max to know if you're actually hitting it or if you're wussing out, it's one way to do it. I don't have athletes use heart rate for VO2 max. Typically, I'm going to use their PRs. VO2 max is technically done at 3K race pace. But there you go. In a nutshell, okay, 70 to 80% on your easy days. 85 to 90% of your max heart rate is going to be for threshold. And then there are some things in the middle. I do teach athletes how to find the sweet spots for their marathon pace and things like that. A lot of times we'll set goals, process goals within a marathon where you're going to stay under this heart rate till mile this, and then we're going to go. So there's more to this than just this, but this is like a heart rate for dummies, why you should get one, why it's worth your time. Appreciate your time. Peace.